You know, when the panel asks you questions and after you ask, everyone just goes,
I know them, psychologists. I
and,
know them very well.
ah,
I know them. I
you know,
know them. I was part of them. As if they had planned.
I think it's, you know, a way they try to make you feel comfortable. They really try not to make you feel bad about your responses.
Look, to be honest with you, having been on the other side, if students knew how much we want them to do well, and when we go there, we have no we have no feelings against anybody or no agenda to sabotage anybody's progression. Actually, people by their own fears and thought patterns and behavior, they disadvantage themselves.
Yeah.
Friends, thank you so much for joining us. I'm with Miss Khanyisile Ndlovu. Ma'am, welcome and thank you so much for joining me. Maybe as a way of introduction, if you can just share a bit about yourself, where you come from, and who's Khanyisile for those who don't know you. Welcome and over to you.
Thank you so much for having me. So my name is Khanyisile Ndlovu. I am from Soweto. And what else do you like to know? Everything about.
When you said Soweto, I nearly thought you were gonna say Soshanguve.
No, I'm from Soweto. I'm 24 years old, turning 25 this year. And I'm Zulu. I come from a family of two. I was raised by my mother, and yeah, that's basically all about me.
And you matriculated, you did your matric and everything at Soweto.
I did my matric at Rodiport at Westridge High School.
Okay. Is it a Model C school, black school, and what kind of school is it?
It's a Model C school.
Oh, well, I'll come back to it because sometimes people, when they hear about people being in psychology, they think they had some privileged background that gave them an advantage to get into masters. So
No.
get into that. And maybe just a quick background about you and your studies. Would you say you were a high achiever at school, average? How will you categorize yourself?
From high school
From
going
high school?
forward.
Yeah.
Yo, high school, no. High school, I was never. In fact,
You were there. You were present.
I was just yes.
No, you are like me.
Top 10, never received any award. There was nothing.
No, you are like me. You
Yeah.
are like me. And I usually say it doesn't matter anymore. You are now in a master's class.
In fact, my matric results are not impressive.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, my matric, they are lookable. That's all I can say. They are lookable.
I can't say the same.
At least you can kill a chicken to say you've tried. Now tell me, when you finish your matric, what did you do? Where did you go to for higher education, or did you take a gap year? What happened after your matric?
So after my matric, I upgraded my matric result. So I passed with a diploma.
Oh, you upgraded. Oh, now explains why you say. Okay.
I upgraded my English and mathematics and physics. No, I upgraded my mathematics and physics first. And a small difference, but at least it helped me push to a bachelor.
That's great. That's great.
Then the second year, so after I matriculated in 2015, upgraded in 2016. I had applied at UJ. At that time, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I was just looking at the prospectus and seeing where I qualify and thinking, it's okay, let me apply for this course. So I had applied at UJ on the late application system. I applied for, what did I apply for? I think I applied for logistics. I don't know why. I applied for logistics. I got rejected because of space. And then I decided, well, my mother supported me to upgrade again. Because my APS was around 23. So it was really bad. I had to upgrade again. Still, I upgraded just math. And I decided, let me upgrade English because it's not as, hectic. But still, there was like a minor difference. It didn't really make a difference. My APS, I think, increased with 1.
Is it?
And I
it's
think
something. It's something.
No,
Still an increment.
Okay. At that time in my life, I was going through a lot of things. During my matric, I was going through a lot of things. After my matric, I was going through a lot of things emotionally. So my focus was not really there. So then I decided that what happened after 2017, I upgraded again. I applied at UJ. I got rejected again because of space. At that time, 2018, Unisa had late applications for the first time. I think that was also the last time. I applied at Unisa, and I just, I was applying out of frustration. And I just decided, let me apply for psychology. I applied for of health sciences and social services in psychological counseling. At that time, I didn't even know. I just psychological counseling. I was looking for something related to psychology, and I assumed when I see psychological counseling that it has something to do with psychology. I wasn't really. I had not done research, but yeah, it was the right course.
Super. Now, look, I mean, what we're sharing is very important because this is a student support channel. And we usually encourage students from any level. And I think what you are sharing, I just wanted to reflect on it, that if you are not having good marks that are actually earning you a bachelor's acceptance, what that means for somebody who doesn't know is that you don't actually have the permission of the minister to go to university. You can only go to college. You can actually upgrade in order to make sure that you get a bachelor's. And you say you upgraded twice, 2 years.
Yes.
Yeah. And so basically, in essence, what you are saying is you just have to do what you have to do in order to get to the way you want to be. Yes. And I'm glad we are sharing that because we are going to get into master selection and rejections and all of that. But what I'm already hearing, what you came across about in psychology was not new to you. You knew rejection from a undergraduate level. So thank you for that. Now let's get to the Unisa. And I was excited to hear from Unisa when we started because I've always wanted to meet a Unisa student. I'm very excited because I hear a lot of stories about Unisa. Now tell me, I'm very interested about Unisa. So which campus were you using in terms of your correspondence when you're studying at Unisa? If you go to the library, you wanted books, where would you go? Would you come to Pretoria or there was something there around Soweto?
Okay, so I was using the Florida campus. It's Soweto, and there was also Johannesburg campus at that time. I'm not sure. Yeah, so I was using both.
Okay.
And at some point, I decided to use the Joburg campus because transport getting to Florida was quite expensive. So with Joburg campus, there's a Ria Vaya. So can I just share something briefly? So I with Unisa. Unisa has low APS requirements. So I would definitely not qualify. I would have not qualified to study psychology with, full-time institutions like UJ WITS because of my marks. So Unisa has an APS of like, I think the APS was 21 or 20. So that's an alternative for someone who has a low APS and wants to go into psychology. I used the Joburg campus. Though I was studying through uni, I had made up my mind that I'm a full-time student. So I would travel to campus at least 3-4 times a week.
Oh, wow. Okay. Which is good. I think I totally recommend that, particularly for somebody from matric. If you want to experience Unisa like any other first-year student everywhere, like you are studying, go to campus every day, at least be in the library, meet like-minded students. I went to Unisa with my honors. It was like I'm just mashalela at home because I didn't have to go there unless I need to or I want to. But beside, I was in Pretoria. There's a hill when you go to Unisa. There's a big hill. So if you don't have a car, that hill will make you hate school. It's very famous for anybody from Pretoria.
I know it.
You know it?
Yeah.
That hill will take all the energy out of you. It will humble you. It will make you appreciate school. Long walk to freedom. So it makes you angry as a student when you go up that hill every day. But anyway, tell me about Unisa. Unisa students like asking about selection of modules and all that. Now, from my undergrad, when you register, you'll find modules that are already tailored for the program. And if you were to select, maybe it's 1 or 2 electives. What's happening with Unisa and module selection? I see a lot of students asking about, help me select module, and what's happening? What do you need to do as a Unisa student?
Yeah, that's a very big problem at Unisa. I know someone, I have a friend actually who was interested in industrial psychology. So I think with you, because you don't really have that support that you would get as a full-time student. And when you plan to do your studies with Unisa, you need to, I think it's advisable to go for student support first before choosing your modules or even before choosing your course, because that's when they help you understand. That's when I learned that when psychology is actually not just a degree and that's it. The modules, you need to be very careful, especially if you want to go into industrial psychology. So I'm not about, but Unisa had 3 streams in psychology. So there was a Bachelor of Health Sciences and Social Services, and then there was a psychological counseling stream, there was community psychology, and there was organizational psychology. So a lot of students who are looking into going into industrial psychology in masters chose the organizational psychology stream, and it's problematic because Unisa does not explain this. When you do that course, it doesn't into psychology, into industrial psychology. So you need to do a BCom. Unisa also has a BCom in industrial psychology. That's what you need to do. So when people get into honors and when other people just complete their degree, that's when they find out that actually I didn't do the correct course. And it becomes problematic, then they would have to opt for educational counseling or clinical psychology for masters. So also with the courses, there's prerequisites, there's core requisites. sometimes you can be in your first year and then you can still register for a course in second or third year, simply because there's no prerequisites for that course. So people make mistakes there. And when you check the Unisa courses online, when you do your elective, sometimes they tell you must choose 2 courses in group B, choose 1 course in group A, and so forth. And sometimes people make mistakes there and they tend to choose too many courses. So when you register, you do get an option to choose too many courses, but you also get an option to proceed.
Okay.
I also had a mistake.
Look, I recommend anybody watching from Unisa, make sure that you get student guidance advice. If you are in Pretoria, I know there's a counseling department at the Sunnyside campus. There are psychologists in there. I think they've got counselors, clinical, educational, who can advise you at Sunnyside campus. They are very good. They will guide you. There's what we call also like a module overload or over credits, when you take more than you are supposed to carry. So you go there, they will guide you. I think this issue of modules makes people not to graduate on time, because you take things you're not supposed to take, or sometimes you took the wrong ones and you need to correct them later. So to avoid all these challenges, go there, get the information so that you can be able to choose. We can advise you on Facebook, but I think the best would be go to the campus and get information from there. That will be the relevant one. Or go also to the department and speak to the course coordinator, who will guide you on what you can select. The course coordinator is the best person to get information. So let's leave Unisa for now. I think you and me, we need an interview about Unisa. I'm very much interested. I'm telling you, I like Unisa so much. I'm very much interested in Unisa. I've got a lot of questions, but let me get to the gist, because I want to get to this part. Okay. You are now doing your master's, or let me leave it to you actually. What are you currently doing where? And let's start from there.
Okay, currently I am doing my master's in educational psychology at WITS University. I'm doing my M1.
Okay. And where did you do your honors?
I did my honors with Unisa.
Unisa, oh Unisa. So Unisa, you were doing the honors academic one?
Yes.
And I hear people say, no, when you did the academic, you can't get into masters, especially educational psychology. How did you get into educational psychology with Unisa honors? Look, I tell them it's not true. Yeah, I tell them it's not true, and I've got my own reason, but I want to hear from somebody from Unisa. Why do people think Unisa honors will not get to educational or will not get into masters? And they like speaking about accreditation. I don't know why Unisa people like accreditation. It's not accredited and all that and all that. I don't know. How did you get to educational, and what made you think you'll get accepted?
Okay, so I've heard those stories. I think I was still doing my third year, and I got so worried. But I'm a person who does a lot of research. So when I looked at the Unisa honors modules, even undergrad, and you compare with your UJ, your WITS, your UP, and so forth, you'll realize that Unisa has more modules than all these institutions. Unisa has a maximum of 10 modules. You'd find with other institutions, they had like 6, they had like, I don't know, 8. And Unisa has all these modules that are required. So when you do your master's, when you check the modules that they require, for example, when you're applying for counseling or clinical, or let me make an example with neuropsychology, they want a module. What's it called?
They want how many modules?
No, there's a module that they want specifically.
Okay.
And
neuropsychology.
Yes, when you apply for neuropsychology and masters, they want it's offered at UCT. They neuropsychology module during your honors. Unisa has that. I also checked. There was a time where I had decided if I don't make it into masters, I'd consider doing psychometry at UJ.
Yes.
And I checked that the module that they require is the assessment module. Unisa has that. Unisa has a lot of modules. I don't understand where people get this idea that won't qualify with an academic honors from Unisa for masters. Unisa actually has more modules compared to other institutions. Based on my
I totally agree with you, and I'm glad you are touching on that when we are doing your honors in Unisa, you could have actually applied to do the UJ B-Psych equivalent, or you could have went to any program in a master's level. And I totally agree. I think it's lack of information and people not doing their own research. And particularly Unisa student, I don't know why, not you. You are a different one. The one that I meet on Facebook. So, but I think the encouragement to them is that get information, but take your luck, apply. You never know. Don't reject yourself before you are rejected. But I want to know, Kanye, you were doing your honors at Unisa. You chose to go for educational. The other issue that I hear, people say educational needs education background. So I want to find out from you, did you have any module in education, or were you a teacher before, or do you have any education background that allowed you to be selected for education at WITS?
No. On my undergrad, I did have some electives that I chose, which were educational B.Ed modules, but that's not the reason why I got approved. So I don't have any educational background. No.
Which module were those? Because I know Unisa student will be asking you which module in particular.
That was undergrad. So I had inclusive education.
Okay.
I had educational theoretical frameworks, something like
that. That's good. No, those are good modules. Actually, I was speaking to another coordinator 2 days ago, asking them if they want psychology background. And one thing that she mentioned, which I thought was very important, she said, if you have got educational psychology honors, these education things are not so much a problem. But what I found out from my conversation with her is not much about education background, but it's also alignment of the modules. That some people don't have the right module that will allow them to be selected because they just want you to have some form of a background. So no, thank you for sharing that. So in essence, you were not a teacher before, you did not do any teaching work of any form, and you were selected in educational psychology masters. Now, there are 6 categories. You mentioned neuro, there's industrial, there's clinical, there's research. Why educational in particular? Did you apply for other fields or only educational? And why educational?
Okay, so I've always decided that I'd apply for. Okay, I've always known that it would be easier for me to be approved into educational psychology compared to clinical and counseling. And the reason behind that is because I've worked a lot with children. And I was volunteering during my undergrad at the Teddy Bear Clinic. So I was working a lot with children and I really enjoyed it. So for me, I felt that I'd be able to answer some of the questions I'm going to be asked during the interview more easily because of my experience working with children. I chose educational psychology because of that. I'm saying during my undergrad, I chose to apply for educational psychology. However, I also wanted clinical psychology. I don't know why. I think it's this fascination of wearing scrubs and working in a hospital. So when I got to my honors, I only applied for while I was doing my honors, I applied for educational at WITS. I wanted to apply for clinical at University of Limpopo, but I didn't complete my application. And I got invited to selections at WITS University. The selections, that was 20 what? That was 2020. I got invited to selections. They were online because of COVID.
2020.
Yeah, that was 2020.
Okay.
I was
And
doing
you were doing your honors at that time?
Yes.
Okay. So you were only invited you only applied at one place, because you mentioned that you never finished completing the application.
Yes, during my honors, I only applied at WITS.
You trusted yourself. People usually apply it everywhere.
No, I didn't have the The application process is very long.
I can imagine. Look,
I don't know. I don't know how to do it. You find people applying all over, and I still ask myself that question: how? It takes a lot. It takes a lot of time.
It takes a lot of time and a lot of money, because every application you have to pay. Although I still recommend that people apply and increase their chances, but it's a lot. But obviously, if you apply, you can use the same information on the same form. You just have to tweak it for that particular institute, just to increase chances. When actually you came in, I was telling you I was recording. One of the recording I was doing, I was showing people, because I spoke to different institutes, how many people apply in each institute and how many people get selected. And it's scary. It's scary, because I could see that those who are selected, they are among the few privileged because of the competition. You mentioned that they were trying to put everything together, and obviously just to experience. So I want to find out, can you give an example of maybe what will give an impression that they're trying to integrate group work in the online? And the good thing about you is that it was online, which is likely not going to be online, going to be different. But at least what we share will give one a perspective when it becomes face-to-face. What is it that made you think it was incorporation of a group work in your own experience?
So it was online in 2021. Last year it was face-to-face.
Okay.
It's just the way they ask you questions. It's the way they ask questions. If you're a person who said, when you go for interviews, there's usually an individual interview, there's a group task, and there's a research task. So if you prepare for a group, I'm assuming that most of us who prepare for interviews will want to, understand group dynamics. So you want to understand yourself. What kind of person are you in a group? Like, what role would you take in a group? So understanding group dynamics, that's what we normally do to prepare for a group task. So it's just questions based on, the kind of person.
So give an example of a question that can make you think that. Look, I'm an advocate here. I've got people I'm representing. Give me an example.
The thing is, I can't really give an example.
Don't talk about the vet one. Just give me an example. That's general example.
It's just understanding yourself within, group dynamics.
Or like, at an interview, they'll ask you, have you been in a situation where this and this happened? What will you do? Something like that.
For me, it was not like that.
Okay, give me. That's why I want yours, because I know mine won't be relevant.
But if you understand group dynamics and the kind of person you are, how act in a group, you'll be able to answer questions that are related to group.
Yeah, but what I want is an example. So what kind of, and you don't need to give me yours. You can give me what your friend shared that they've asked them at KZN or wherever. Give me an example of how they will frame that question.
I think what I just said is an example of how they will.
You are working with the selectors.
No, but how?
Okay. No, like what will they? Because I'm just trying to think of somebody who's planning to come. They want to know what exact, somebody when they prepare for an interview, they will ask you, tell us about yourself. Who am I question. So I want to find out now, in a group context, what are the, let's say, for example, people who go to a group setting, what are the questions that one can expect to prepare for?
Okay.
Just from your own, not let's put words there, just from your own knowledge, conversing with people, hearing what other people have been selected.
Yeah. It's pretty hectic. It's just a question in passing. Just understand your character and how you interact in a group.
Oh, character. That's very good. Yeah. So tell me then, so how long was the selection, the interview?
It was I think it was an hour. Sometimes it would be extended.
Is it? At what point in the interview would you say you felt, you know what, if they don't select me here, it's not my doing? With that thing that I've told them, what is it that you told them at that point that you think made you feel, if they don't select me here, it's their fault? Did you have that moment?
Remember, I had 2 interview experiences. So I don't know. Are you asking about my first interview or my second?
So when you say you had 2, which one was the first? Which one was the second?
The online, the virtual was the first. The face-to-face was the second. That was last year.
Oh, so you went to VET twice?
Yes.
Okay. No, it's fine then. I think then let's move out of the interview. Let's move the virtual one. Let's go to the real one, because I like real things. So what happened with the outcome of the virtual one?
I was not selected.
Oh, okay. Let's leave that one. Or let me actually ask about that. What made you think, how did you know you're not selected? How long after the interview?
I think it took 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 to 3 weeks to send feedback.
And in a hindsight, when you reflect back, just about the one where you are not selected, in your own view, assessment, what make you think would have been the reason you are not selected?
I think I was not matured enough.
Is it?
I didn't really understand the scope of practice at that time. I remember they asked me a question and I was trying to understand within myself if I understood the question. So yeah, at that time, I didn't really understand the scope of practice of psych. Also because judging on I'm assuming I look very young, and that can be problematic because when you look young, already you're judged. So you need to be able to present yourself in a way that shows that you know why you want this, you know what it is, and you're ready for this. So it was, yeah. So I
continue.
Yeah, I think it wasn't. I was never discouraged. I was asked questions that I had to reflect on after the interview, and that's what helped me prepare for my second interview. I was asked a lot of questions that made me realize that I didn't really understand the scope of practice at all at that time.
I'm glad you're mentioning that, because I think even me then, I was very young, or at least I look young. But I usually tell people that don't 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 make them look at your age and decide based on it, but make it difficult for them in terms of your knowledge and level of maturity, because maturity depends on various factors, and age might be one of them, but it doesn't play too much a critical role. You can be young but still produce knowledge or information that shows that you are more mature than you look. So I'm glad you are bringing that. But you mentioned that there was a question that made you were not even sure that you understood it. Do you by any chance remember what is this question that confused you?
I don't remember how they asked that question, but they were asking about my experience in therapy.
Oh, okay. So they wanted your background about the knowledge of therapy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not
And you
my experience in therapy.
just your knowledge.
Just my experience.
Oh, okay.
But they,
So you may
in
say
a
that
way,
again?
I was saying they asked that question in a way that I didn't really understand at that time.
Okay. And then you mentioned also that you didn't know the scope. What made you think you didn't know it? What happened? Is there something particular they asked you that made you aware of that?
Okay, so they will, they'll ask you questions that would require you to know what an educational psychologist is. So you wouldn't be able to answer that question if you do not know what an educational psychologist is, what an educational psychologist does, where an educational psychologist can work, and so forth.
Oh, okay. Okay. And so I'm glad you are mentioning that, because most people they are not selected, and they feel like they don't even know why they're not selected. So basically what you are telling me as well is that one needs to be able to do their own reflection about how they responded to questions, and perhaps they might find answers on why they were not selected. And when you say they notified you, did you get a letter? Did they call you? How did you get to know that you were not selected?
I got a letter, an email.
Is it? Did the email specify the reasons, or just that you are not selected?
No, the reason is it's a reason that's just there for everyone. They just tell you space is limited, and they have to choose. They have a limited intake, so you just didn't make it.
Okay. Yeah, because I was asking one coordinator if they do inform the people, and they made it clear that those who make it to the final rounds, they do call them. And I remember at UP, I used to be one of the people who called people who are not selected, and we used to inform them of the reasons. Obviously, what we could remember, because we were part of the selection at that time. But obviously, practically speaking, it's difficult to inform everybody by call and give them feedback. I would say take it very hard and swallow it and just move on, because whatever reason you are going to get will not fully satisfy you, because most of the time it's not that you can't be a psychologist, you can still be. Space will always be the issue. Whatever reason we are going to give you, it will come down to space at the end of the day, and it's not unique to psychology. It's common across any field. Medicine now is a big issue. Few people are selected, many people qualify. So I'm glad you are mentioning that part. Now, you were not selected, and you say you applied to WITS again the following year.
Yes.
Now, what were you doing the other year when you were now a graduate and you were waiting to get into masters? For somebody who just graduated in psychology, has not been selected for masters, want to know what they can do. What were you doing? Were you at ShopRite, Pick and Pay? Where were you? Because I hear psychology students, they work at ShopRite.
Yeah. Really hectic. After completing your honors, it's it's like now you don't really have anything to do. Fortunately for me, during my honors, around November, I got called for an internship that I had applied for. So after my honors, I was a research intern.
Okay. At what? At varsity or where?
At HSRC.
HSRC. That's the one in Pretoria.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, and that's very important because people need to know, don't only rely on the selection. Already make plans in advance on what you can do in case you're not selected.
Yeah.
And that's not a lack of faith for Bazalwane or lack of belief in yourself. It's just keeping your options open, because even in your best plans, things that are unplanned can still happen. So I'm glad you're mentioning that. So, and then the following year, you applied at WITS. Did you only apply at WITS?
I applied at WITS, and I applied at Unisa for clinical, but I was just applying for the sake of applying at Unisa. I really spent adequate time working on my application for WITS. And when I applied for the second time, I didn't really change much. I just added a few experiences here and there. Because the first time I applied, there's a section where they ask you if you have any research experience. I had no research experience, so I just added that. And with my autobiography, I just paraphrased and added a few things here and there. I didn't change it much. And the reason why I didn't change it is because I believed I got invited before, so why should I change it? You know,
which makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I will, the clinical, what was the outcome of it at Unisa?
What was the outcome? I didn't get anything.
No feedback. Oh, Unisa.
I knew I was just applying for, when you want this thing so bad and you feel like I felt like I didn't make enough efforts to apply to other institutions. I didn't apply to UKZN. I only applied at first. So when I heard that applications at Unisa are still open, even though it was for clinical, I decided, let me just apply. I applied on the last day, on the last minute. Yeah, so I wasn't expecting anything. I was just trying to console myself.
Okay. And WITS called you again for the interview?
Yes, WITS invited me.
Now take me through WITS. Now this is now face to face. Now it's not online. How was it different from the other one? Now how's the face to face?
Sure.
Now I want you to take me step by step. Let me ask you this question: was it one day again, or was it several days?
It was one day again.
Okay. So they invite you. Take me through it. You arrive. I assume you arrive in the morning. Are you a group of students? Are you arriving in one hall, looking at each other, your competitors? You come at a specific time. How was it?
So I was also interacting with other students on Telegram, the Cognition and Core group on Telegram. I was asking who else got invited for the interviews. So I found out that the interviews were taking place within a week. So mine was on a Thursday. And they had told me to 11 a.m. I arrived very early, and they were interviewing us individually. So we were waiting at the waiting room, and then a panel member will come up when it's your time. They call your name, and then you go inside.
Okay. And when you go inside, is it you and 10 people again, 5 people?
Hey, it's you and 10 to 15 people.
Sure.
There were so many. There were so many people. There were so many. When you enter that room, there was a long desk.
It's like it's an interview to go to heaven.
Yo, there was a long days. So long. And you look inside. There's a list of there's panel members on the other side as well. Yeah, it was, but for me, I had expected it.
Because you were there, they had 10, so
I expect.
So how does it go then? They welcome you, and what then? Tell us about yourself.
They first introduce themselves individually, and they tell you who they are, what they do, and so forth. And then, no, they didn't ask me to tell me. They did tell us about yourself. It was
okay.
It was hectic. I got a question that I didn't expect. The first question was very hectic.
First question. I thought they're trying to icebreak and tell us about yourself to relax you.
The icebreak part was that they introduce themselves. Anything.
So when they introduce themselves, that's the icebreaker. There's no other icebreaker after that.
No, I didn't get to tell us about yourself. I know we don't get asked. We don't really get asked the same questions. There will be similar questions here and there. Our interviews don't. I assume they don't start the same. But for me, it went straight to the point.
So what was this difficult question that you got that they started to with? We'll be waiting. Take water. We'll find us here.
No, it's not a difficult question. It's just the question I didn't expect. I don't think there's a problem sharing this question.
No, I don't think so as well.
So they asked me, how did I prepare for today?
I can imagine. Where do you start?
Yeah.
So they just ask you, how did you prepare for today's interview?
Yeah. No, they just said, how did you prepare for today?
And what did you say?
So you have to figure out, are they asking, how did you prepare for the interview? Or how did you prepare for this day specifically?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And what did you say? Do you still remember?
I remember a few things I said.
Yeah.
I said, what did I say? I said,
we thought maybe even specifying directly. What are the things that you spoke about?
I spoke about. That's when I told them that I was invited for selections last year, so I went through the questions that I was asked last year. I did a reflection of my experience in selections last year, and that's how I prepared. Something around.
Wow, no, that was awesome. Because I actually did a video where I speak about avoiding rejection, and one of the things I mentioned, I said, even if you've been rejected before, make sure that you don't shy away from speaking about your previous experience, but do it in such a way that shows some form of reflection and maturity. And I think that's what you did, because had you tried to hide it, remember, they've got records, they've got forms, they've got, anything can show. And even if it's not the same people, one or two people might still be the same. So, no, I remember her. She was here, and she still hasn't changed.
Yeah.
So I think you did well by doing that. And I encourage anybody who has been rejected before, who's going to go back, don't try to hide it. Actually, it's your advantage to bring it to the fore, to say, no, I was here, I was asked this, and I reflected on it, and this is what I've done to show maturity. No, I think that was an A. I think that was a killer one, and it looks like you nailed it. It looks like you nailed it. Okay. And what then? What then happened?
You know, when the panel asks you questions and after you ask, everyone just goes.
I know them, psychologists. I know them very well. I know them. I know them. I was part of them. As if they had planned.
I think it's, a way they try to make you feel comfortable. They really try not to make you feel bad about your response.
Look, to be honest with you, having been on the other side, if students knew how much we want them to do well, and when we go there, we have no feelings against anybody or no agenda to sabotage anybody's progression. Actually, people, by their own fears and thought patterns and behavior, they disadvantage themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you the truth. Remember, those people are committed. They've got busy schedule. They took out a day. Most of them, they can't wait to go back to their office to go and work. So they are there. They wanted to make it worth their time. So I think it's people that actually disadvantage themselves. So although it's scary to have 15 people, but if mentally you prepare to have 15 people, it's not going to be that scary. Just go there, relax, and be yourself. They take you, they like you. If they don't, be fine. You go on and try again next year.
Yeah, it's important to prepare yourself mentally.
You have to.
To network with people who've been in that position, with students who've attended interviews. You get an idea of what to expect during, and it helps you calm your nerves.
You have to, because I mean, it's like I think what it does, because remember, to be a psychologist, you are not. It's not like a job. You are actually preparing to enter into a professional qualification. You are going to be presenting your proposal in front of a panel for it to be accepted. You get the point. Already, there's going to be a panel. You might as well get used to being in a panel. Ethical approval are a panel. You need to publish. To publish, you present your papers to scholars in the field. It becomes part of life. It's just an introduction.
Yeah.
The good thing about it is that what people don't know, it's not unique to psychology. Medical students do the same with their cases. If you're a student doctor, you get panel of doctors around you. You even get the patient in the middle with you who's hearing you present about them in front of we are not unique. I think we are the one who make our life as if they're difficult than others, but we are just like any other profession out there. And I'm glad we are touching on that normalize it. And we are doing this video for those who are going to go there for the first time. Even if you have not been there, already in your mind prepare. There might be 15 people in here. There might be 10 people in here. How will I handle them? And I think you are actually to your advantage. If it's 10 against 1, you are an underdog there. You can't lose much. They know that they are a majority. So imagine if you show confidence against 15 people and they can see that this person is not even afraid of us. That on its own communicates to them that, hey, this person is a very strong candidate. He's keeping eye contact. He's looking at us. He asks for clarity, and he's thoughtful. He doesn't just answer because he wants to answer. He's thoughtful. He gives accurate answers, but insightful as well. I think for me, that would make more impact than you sweating there, stuttering, speaking under your breath. They keep saying, sorry, speak louder. Can you speak a bit louder? And no, that's good. That's good. So yeah, and then what happened?
Yeah. So they ask me questions. Another thing is, when they can ask you a question. They'll always ask you. Sometimes they can ask you a closed-ended question, but you need to be open with your feedback. Like they can just ask you, what research topic do you have in mind? Don't just share the research topic that you have in mind. Also share the reason why. For example, why this topic? That's what I did. What kind of methodology are you looking into getting into? When they ask you just a closed question, be open with your responses.
No, you are right.
a point where, okay, she has answered everything. The next panel will not ask you this question that they wanted to ask you because you've already answered.
You are right. And I usually tell people, if you are not sure or you think there might be more that you don't know, always be open to them to say, you know what, at least in my limited research, that's what I could come up with, but I still want to grow in the field. And obviously, I'm hoping that as I interact with some of my lecturers, my supervisor, I will explore more other options that are available. By the time you put it that way, you have not closed yourself in your answers being the absolute. You know? At least you have said, you know what, there could be other options and I'm open to them. Because even them now, they can't argue with you and say, no, but don't you think there's this? You have already said, I'm open. You know? Anyway, other things as well. Yeah, Pele, just for you to share.
And thing would be, don't do an interview and try to act like you know everything in psychology. One thing I did, you know, especially when you will always get asked, why do you want to be approved? You know, why educational psychology? Those are just general questions that you would expect. Always reflect on. This is just some advice. I'm not saying you should do it, but what I did was I always emphasized the fact that I want to be trained. I didn't get to the interview and pretended as if I know everything. I want to be educated, and that's why I want to be approved for this program, you know. So yeah, another thing is just don't get there and act like you're a professional. You are there because you're trained to be a psychologist. So express that.
I'm glad you are mentioning that. So in other words, I think communicate to them your level of knowledge, but the fact that you are open to develop and grow further in it. And don't be ignorant. I remember when I went for my honors, I was so ignorant. I was from Unisa. I was so ignorant. You know, like I remember in my interview for honors, I said such a stereotypical statement. I remember one of the panel members, I mentioned something about, you know, rape or something, KZN. I can't remember what I said. But then the other panel member said, I don't think it's like that. He asked the other lady from KZN on the panel, is it like that? Person said, I was so embarrassed. But it was just ignorance. You know, like, yeah, no, that day I wished where I was, it can just be a hole. I could disappear. So you are right. Don't be ignorant and don't think you know it all. And I think the statement, the way I say it, yeah, it was my religious mind that misled me. So thank you for bringing that. Any other thing that you want to share about that experience?
Another thing would be, you know, when you apply, when you look at the application booklets, they share so much information. A lot of people don't read that, but read your application booklets. They share a lot of things, especially with WITS. They tell you, Uti, this is what they consider when, you know, deciding who to approve for the program. They look at maturity, they look at diversity, they look at maturity, diversity. So, you know, now you understand that, you know, they can ask you questions based on that too, you know. That's how I prepared for my interview. What do they mean? They look at diversity. Is it race? Is it just age? Is it, you know, I don't know, in whatever aspects? Is it culture? Is it languages? So look into whatever information they share. Really gives you an idea of what to expect, because they will not tell you what to expect, but whatever it is that they share on the application booklets will give you an idea of this, because you know this is what they want, so this is what you can expect.
So this application booklet, when does one get it? Do you get it after you apply or before you apply?
No, you get it even before. When you apply, application, there's a link for an application form. There's a link for an application booklet. The application booklet is just to guide you.
Okay. I think what I will do, I'm just putting a note here. I will actually do a video about that application booklet. I'll go through all those constructs or whatever thing that they share there, and then just break it down for others to understand them. Because what you're mentioning is very critical. It's very important, because indeed a person can go understanding diversity on only one level in terms of gender and race, but there are many aspects regarding diversity that you can ignore. So I will break it down. Thank you for that. And in terms of the interview, so it was just basically interview throughout the session that you had there.
Yes, it was an interview throughout.
So you didn't have to break out into a group. So you never met other students who were candidates?
In the waiting area.
Only the waiting area. So you never had a session with them at all?
No.
Is it? That is very different to them.
That's why I said that they integrate everything into one interview.
It's very different, unless maybe they've done that. Because I remember somebody, I think, did WITS, but it was different from the way you did it. So maybe they keep on also changing in terms of their approach.
I heard that they started this in 2020. So I'm assuming they decided to continue. Hence, when I did my interview online in 2021, I thought it's just because of COVID, so it was understandable why. My second interview, I had expected that, there'll be a group exercise, there'll be role plays. I had prepared for that actually, but no.
Yeah, because I remember there was somebody who went to WITS, but she did role plays.
That should be for clinical or counseling. I know they did that.
No, there's somebody who did. Was it clinical? No, it was educational. Which year was it?
Oh, that was before 2010.
Yes. Okay. So, for somebody who has not been there, and what other advice would you give them in terms of preparation for that kind of interview?
Firstly, I'm not sure if they will still continue to have single interviews like this. They might change in future. But to prepare for interviews, you need to be confident. You need to know why you chose that specific stream of psychology. You need to understand the scope of practice. You need to know what is an educational psychologist? What does an educational psychologist do? And the HPCSA website shares a lot of information on that. Also, do not apply to, because we apply for educational psychology and clinical and so forth, because obviously it's this anxiety of wanting to increase your chances, and you just get in wherever you get approved. But just make sure that you don't apply for different streams in one institution. Don't be applying at WITS for educational, clinical, counseling, everything. Chances are you will not get approved, because the form that they want that they give us, it's an online, what they call it, but they ask you which program did you apply to, and you have to take the program that you applied to, and they show everything. They show industrial, they show research, they show clinical, educational. So I'm assuming that's where they get to see if you really know what you want.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Continue.
No, I just wanted to share the importance of networking with people who have been in selections. Some people are kind enough to tell you what to expect and explain, not briefly but in detail. I know I had a lot of questions in terms of dress code, how I should present myself, and I was networking with one person initially, and then that person would refer me to someone else if she can't answer the question. So it helps a lot. Don't just tell yourself with you invited to selections. You'll see when you get there. Prepare yourself.
And what advice did they give about dress code?
Just be yourself. People will just say just be yourself. But I personally think a dress code represents who you are. So even if you're not formal, be smart casual.
Don't just be in J.
Yeah, don't just be.
As if we are going to China Mall.
Yeah.
Yeah. You are going to an interview that can change your life. Yeah. Look, I mean, one must think about if they go for a job interview. You want to make an impression, but obviously that doesn't mean you're going to change yourself and wear a tie if you're not a tie person, But you want to be representable, because my thinking is, how do we dress as psychologists for our job? As long as you can mimic that and how you are going to be dressing in a professional context. Because one thing you must remember, as a student in psychology, you are going to have clients. So already you are sending an impression about yourself. You are communicating, like what you are saying. Clothes communicate who you are. Those things really, they communicate, and communication can be open to any form of interpretation in the midst of psychologists. No, thank you for that. So for somebody who's going to apply this year, wanting to follow your footsteps, they've been rejected somewhere like you have been rejected to WITS, what words of encouragement can you give them?
Don't give up. I know it's easier said, when I applied for the second time, I because you can expect rejection. I already planned what I'm going to do if I'm not approved. I planned that I was just going to do a research by dissertation and maybe go into research while I keep applying. So have a plan B. But most importantly, be confident that you'll make it. I think the reason why I got approved this year is because I was hopeful. I went into selections with the mindset that this time I will be. And for that, you need to prepare yourself. You need to prepare yourself to be confident. You will get nervous, but don't let your nerves get to you. You shouldn't be scared of panel members. That's what disturbs the entire process. So you can be nervous but confident at the same time. Just don't be scared of the panel members. They don't bite. They're many, but they don't bite.
There are many, but they don't bite. I like that. Yeah, look, thank you so much for that. And I think what I usually tell people is that the panel members are usually staff members of that particular unit. Some they employed that year, some they just graduated with their masters that year, some might be graduates of PhD. So relatively, some of them might be in your same situation. They are new, they've never been in the selection, they are as scared, as anxious as you are. But you have more to lose than they are. So you really need to deal with the nerves. You really need to calm yourself and be relaxed. And I like that part. Be confident. Even if you pota with confidence, like be serious that that you know what you're talking about. But prepare. I think that is the bottom line, like the main message. Prepare as much as you can. As if it all depends on that preparation. No, thank you so much. Is there anything that you feel like maybe you also need to share just to alert people will be going for the selection this week, or regarding application, or just generally psychology? Anything It could be to your fellow Unisa students or any person aspiring to become a psychologist one day.
Yeah. Okay. From undergrad, if you had already decided to study psychology, do research to find out what stream you'd be interested in, and try to understand if you'd fit to be maybe a clinical psychologist, an educational psychologist, and so forth. And make sure that you work hard during your undergrad and your honors, and aim to, pass with distinctions, because we're many, and there's just a lot of us applying for masters, so they will consider marks. So the first thing that will increase your chances, because you're fighting to be invited to selections first, would be, before even your autobiography or anything else, your marks. So make sure that you get just work on your marks during your undergrad and your honors. Next, work on your application. Don't just be lazy with your application. Share your life experiences on your autobiography, but only share something you would be comfortable talking about, because you don't want to get to the interview and be emotional when they ask you about, for example, if maybe you experienced something that was a traumatic event in your life. And yeah, if there is something that you want to talk about, practice talking something sensitive that you want to talk about. Practice talking about it with your family and friends before you get to the interview, because they'll ask you, and sometimes they ask follow-up questions on that life experience, and it might feel like you are being attacked sometimes. So talk about, on your autobiography, talk about something that you are comfortable with. Don't try to lie to increase your chances, because you need to talk about the things that you wrote. Just be yourself during, while writing, and don't be intimidated by other applicants. Don't be worried that you do not have experience. It really doesn't matter. The first time I applied, I didn't have experience. There's a question where they ask about your research experience, and there's so many lines to show that, they expect you to write so much. But I did say that I currently do not have any research experience, but only my honors research reports and proposal. So don't be intimidated by other applicants, especially when you have been invited and you're waiting there in the waiting room, and you see people, and you see someone, because we're at different stages in life. You'd see someone looking, like they are more suitable than you are for the program, because it has.
They look like they're psychologists than you are.
Yeah, they look like, this one can, you look at a person, you're like, okay, this one will be approved. And then you start getting intimidated. Now you're scared before you even enter the interview. So just don't be intimidated on, don't look at how other people look. And you get applicants who talk while waiting to be interviewed, and that could also be intimidating when they share their experiences, because we get to chat. They ask you, you just general talk. Where did you study? Where are you working? Like that. Don't be intimidated. But also, I think it's important to interact with other applicants, because even there you get hints here and there. You never know what can happen. Yeah, and don't be scared during your interview. Be confident. Be open with your answers. Just prepare yourself, understand the scope of practice, understand why you want to be an educational psychologist or clinical or whatever. understand what does this specific psychologist do, what do they not do. Those things will guide you into how to answer. And make sure that when you, especially when it comes to research, make sure that everything, not everything, but some of the questions that you answer align to, like if you're applying for psych, it should align to, so that psych, so that they can get to see that you understand what an psych is and that this is really what you deserve.
Thank you so much, Khanyisile Ndlovu. Thank you for sharing that. And this is very informative. And I believe that everybody or anyone planning to get selected for honors and masters, this will be very helpful. You have touched on very critical things. And I also encourage those who are also new on the channel and have not seen what we do to also check. There's a video I've done particularly about selection. It's part 1 and part 2 about how to avoid rejection. Check those videos. They speak directly to what Khany is tackling about preparing for selection. But also, you are like me in a sense that you have dedicated your life or your time to help those who want to get into psychology. Because I was on your platform on Instagram. I want you to just share a bit on where they can find you on the platform and the work that you do on that platform of yours on Instagram.
Okay. Yeah, so I have an Instagram, is it a page? An Instagram account.
Yes.
At Khany_psych. So I share just tips to prepare for your interview. I've already shared my, not necessarily my interview experience, but I look forward to doing that. But I share information on, how you can go about writing your autobiography, just general tips on how to prepare for selection day, what to avoid, what to expect, and I will be sharing my journey as well.
Yes, Khany is being humble. Go to the page. He shares a lot of information regarding psychology. So if you want to understand the field, if you want to understand the scope, what educational psychologists do, how to go about preparing your application, he even has images of these things on the Instagram. So go there. If you check at the bottom of this description of this video, you'll be able to get the link to the Instagram page. So I encourage anybody watching, check that page out. And it's good to hear what we do here. But I always encourage people get different perspectives, because the more perspective you have, the better prepared you are. So get that as well. See what is shared there. Read the comments. Hear what people are sharing. The more information you have, the more you are better prepared for your selection process. So I encourage you, check it, click the link, and check what the good work that Khany is doing there. Khany, thank you so much. And how does it feel? Maybe just as a closure. Me, I'm not like those psychology panel people. I'll have icebreakers, nice questions. How does it feel being selected? Tomorrow you are meeting. Is it tomorrow you are having the first time in class, meeting your fellow students? How does it feel being selected? You are now going to the class for the first time. Now you are in this big thing that people don't get into. You are in deep inside. No more selection.
It's a huge relief. It's like,
I can imagine.
Yeah, it's like, if I can tell you, before I was selected. So when people got their replies and their follow-up, I had already decided, I had made up my mind, I didn't make it, because I know 9 people who got approved on the same day, and I hadn't anything. So I was like, oh, that means, because I can't be knowing everyone. There's another 4 that might have been approved. Yes. So I thought I didn't make it. And when I checked my emails the other day, I think this was in September. I check my emails. I see an email from WITS. I'm like, oh, here's my rejection letter. I opened it with so much confidence. So I had already worked.
Yeah.
I had already prepared myself for next year. I had already started my application for the research program. I was application that day. I was like, okay, here's my rejection letter. I opened it, and I couldn't believe my eyes.
Wow!
Yeah, I couldn't. I went to the bathroom to wash my face.
Wow!
Came to it again. I was so surprised.
Wow!
So it's a huge relief in the sense that, you know, it's like after completing your honors, you don't know where you're going. You just trying here and there. But when you get approved, it's like, oh, finally. And now I get to understand why I had to be so patient, because it's a long journey and it's a huge relief.
Look, Kanye, thank you so much. And what I'm glad about it, particularly for you, is that you have not kept it to yourself. You dedicated an Instagram to help others also to follow in your footsteps. And I think that's the most important thing about psychologists. By nature, we are givers. And I think that's the route you took. And that is why I really encourage people to follow you. And even if you are already selected, you can share the Instagram with other people who might be interested, because I think you are dedicating time to say, I've went through the journey and I had my own challenges, but let me share to make it easier for you. And I think that's what we all do, content creation. We want to make it easy for those who are behind us, who might also follow. So thank you so much, and all the best as you are starting with your M1 from tomorrow officially. I know it's going to be a very hectic year. I wonder if we'll even have time to talk. But all I can tell you, it will be worth it.
Yeah, thank you.
So please don't be consumed. Sometimes in masters, you just want to, you know, get out of your own studies and breathe a bit. Don't be afraid to do that. Masters is something else. It's something else. It's something else, but it will be worth it. That's what, even if I was actually recording before I got to the interview, and I was sharing my story about how it happened at UP, the sacrifice I made and all that. But the bottom line, even if you can feel that you don't have life this year, all I can tell you, it will be worth it. You will look back and never regret not having a life for a year, because then you'll enjoy your life for the rest of, of your life, So it will be worth it. So never compare the pain of 1 year with the joy of eternity, or until you are on earth. So remember that in the midst of the tears, in the midst of the stress, in the midst of whatever, because all of them will be part of the process. When we think it's abnormal, how can people read this at such a short when you get there, know that it will be worth it. All of us, we went through that. It never made sense, and you passed it, and you wonder how you made it. We went through all of it. That should be a consolation.
Thank you.
Okay, all the best, and let's keep in touch. And yeah, I hope everything goes well.
Thank you so much, and thanks for the interview.
Thank you.